Okay, let's see if we've learned anything here. Troubleshooting. All right, so let's see. Prop shifts, prop. I don't know where I got this from. I'll just go with what I have. Prop shifts into high blade angle, but does not respond to cockpit input to low angle. But does not respond to input. So I guess if somebody's flying along, they pulled the prop back, went into a higher pitch, came into land, going to go to the high pitch or high RPM, and it didn't do it. It just stayed there in the high blade angle.
Constant speed, the single engine, multi-engine?
Doesn't matter. I don't think it matters.
Broken cable.
Ooh, broken cable. Yeah. Governor's just not getting your input.
Broken pressure, high pressure line.
That would blow all the oil out. So, no.
Maybe like
A stuck poppet?
or stuck pilot valve.
Nah, probably not going to happen. It's well lubricated.
Not if you get something in there, or one of the things breaks.
It's going to normally stick open in a position if something.
Something broken. What else you got?
Flyweight.
Broken flyweight? Ooh, broken speeder spring. What does speeder spring do it? Stuck in perpetual overspeed.
So it's continuing, it won't go back.
Yeah, won't go back.
Be stuck in high pitch.
Yep, keeps trying to go higher. So broken speeder spring.
How would that break? Like,
It's a spring. I mean, they wear out and break.
just like physically, it would just like
Yeah,
snap?
yeah. I don't know about that one. Broken governor drive shaft. Then it'll be getting no oil. Well, if it's a counterweighted prop.
Yeah.
Well, that
Goes straight to high pitch.
Or, oops, that's not broken. Blocked oil passages. You actually can get that with this next one. Sluggish. Or erratic propeller operation. Sluggish or erratic prop operations. Hunting, it's never really on. It's kind of overspeed, underspeed. It's moving around. It's like, and it's slow to get where you want it to. You go to take off and it overspeeds quite a bit. You got to back off the throttle a little bit, like what's going on here. That will be sludge buildup. Buildup in prop shaft. And that does happen in the prop shafts. So whenever you take off your propeller, you go in there and scoop out all of the sludge. Got to add a de-sludge. All right, let me see. Let's talk about props now. Let's talk about the Macaulay propeller. Let's see here. Where would that put me? Heck if I know. Up, that's why. There we go. We'll go with that. I can tell it's Macaulay by a little sticker right there. I don't know what that sticker is. That's a Hartzell. Oops. Oh, talked about the governors. Oh, go back. Stop screw right there. Okay, we talked about all that. Talked about transfer collar. We did the video. We have to circle back and talk about that. We talked about this. There we go, Macaulay. Macaulay, constant speed props. So these are, we're going to talk about mostly all reciprocating engine propellers. I don't remember what my notes are here. Macaulay props, reciprocating engines are 2 blades. Constant speed or constant speed feathering. Each type is provided in either a 2-blade or 3-blade configuration. Oh, or 2 types. Props for recip engines are of 2 types. Constant speed or constant speed feathering. Each type is provided with either 2 or 3-blade configuration. So I'm going to do, my notes are not going to be really in line with what I'm doing right now, so you're going to have to start writing some stuff on your own. Get used to it. Some of you are almost done with me and going off to second year anyway. So, all right, so this right here, the Macaulay 2-blade, comes in 2 versions. Feathering or non-feathering is how I usually say it. This one here is non-feathering. You can tell by the photo. See this right here? This part right there. It is short. There's a piston inside. There's a piston inside of there. So when you move it, the little piston right inside of there moves. So, watch the fun noise. So I don't think I can move that over there. That would probably be.
Pass it around.
Yeah, I'm pass it. It's pounds. All right. So the little piston right there only moves a short distance. So right there, that's as far as it's going to go. And so that's not going to feather. So in fact, that's 28.8 down to 13.7 is what somebody wrote on there. So all right, Macaulay, for popular design. Let me see. Oh yeah. Let me see what's. Take a look at what photos I have to deal with. Well, that's a lot to talk about.
So that longer nose cone would be for longer piston travel?
Which means it's feathering. All right, let's see what I got here for notes. Macaulay, it's pretty much one of the main props. Now anymore, it's like Macaulay, Hartzell, MT, which is composite. So popular systems, say 2 different designs. This is going to be a different design than what I just mentioned. There is the threaded. I'm going to try that one more time. The threaded propeller, it uses a threaded retention nut to hold the blades into the hub. So it uses a threaded retention hub. I'm sorry, nut. Retention nut to hold blade into the hub. And there is the threadless. It's a modern design. With a higher TBO, because props have a TBO on them. TBO stands for?
Time between overhaul.
All right. I wrote higher TBO time. That'd be a higher time between overhaul time.
It's the same thing.
CAC card.
What?
Like a CAC card. Common access card. Military thing, my bad.
Automatic ATM machine. A what? This one uses split retainers. Retainers to hold blade, into the hub. All right, which one is this one? Feathering or non-feathering? Non-feathering. Look how short that is right there. Threaded or threadless? Threadless. That's the good one. This is a threaded. Not the good one. That's the same picture we looked at a minute ago, so you should already know what it is.
What is that? Is that a piece of sand?
It is a phenolic block.
Ah.
I'm not sure how you explain phenolic. It's like a plastic.
It's a resin, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a better.
But it's a insulating.
It's a, yeah, insulative resin. I like that. So why it's insulative?
I think it's also like reinforced as well.
And so this is the pitch change pin and the pitch change block. So the way this is going to work, we have a spring, right? So spring is going, it's pushing forward. This is non-counterweighted. So let's see if we can think this through. Because this is really what your oral on all this stuff is. Just kind of thinking through something. So non-counterweighted, so CTF drives the prop towards low pitch, high RPM. Oil pressure is high pitch. So this piston right here is all the way forward towards you. So that means it is going to be all the way in low pitch, no oil. And what helped it get to piston all the way forward?
Spring.
Big old spring. So my fixed forces are CTF and spring to low pitch, high RPM. So this is going to be like my plane. Single engine, constant speed. And so when I want to go to a higher pitch, lower RPM, I will pull back on the knob. It will then tell it is in a overspeed condition. Lift up the pilot valve, direct governor oil to the prop. It's going to come up through a tube inside the spring, out these little holes right here, fill this area right here. There's an O-ring right there, pushing the piston backwards, fighting against the spring. It is going to then push this back with this block, this pitch change block, against this pin. This pin is drilled into the blade, which rotates. So just going to push, and these things break, which is crazy. So there must be some reason why they make them. It's not out of aluminum.
Yeah, we were trying to figure that out. I had a theory.
I don't know what it would. What?
I think that like because if there's flexibility between parts, it's super rigid.
Maybe.
Maybe the phenolic blocks a little bit more.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Phenolic is used because of the high resistance to flexing.
Oh fuck.
I think it's softer than the aluminum or steel.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot softer. It's
So it would
Way
act as a
less.
bearing surface for that pin, so it could rotate without taking material and galling it up.
maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, as it pushes back, the pin's gonna have to slightly rotate.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of rotation in there.
Like a half moon shape.
All right, so we got that. We figured out how it works. It wasn't hard, right? So CTF plus spring pressure to low pitch, oil pressure to high pitch. It fills up this void here, or in front of the piston though, pushes it back. Once it's back, it's going to push on this pin. This pin is then going to go this way. It's going to roll the blade towards a different angle. This is the threaded type, which is the older type. Yeah, I'm not going to write all that.
Just the same thing on the bottom for the other blade?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, one blade stays put, the other one changes. Yeah, so it's the same thing on the bottom. Let's see. Uses CTF and spring pressure. Yep. Do you want me to write this stuff?
Yeah, really.
Some people are saying yes. Some people are saying no. All right.
I'm not
Threadless.
bored
What's that?
Talking.
I know. Me too. For a
You
while.
watch your video.
I know you want to.
You write it. Yes.
It's why it's made of what it is. It's supposed to be high temperature resistant and incredibly hard and cheap.
Yeah, that doesn't explain why it's here.
Why it's there?
This does not get hot.
It's
And
hard and
being
cheap.
cheap.
Everything else is aluminum. If you've ever looked at a price for a prop, cheap is not a problem for these people.
They decide to use the tiny.
I know. It's like, well, this prop is generally speaking $15,000, but if we give you the phenolic block, we can get it to you for $14,995. So,
Just look at why do you use phenolic phenolic stuff.
No, the reason why it's phenolic, it either has to be something like Duke said, it's a bearing issue, which I could see that. Instead of having aluminum on aluminum, which will gall, or steel, that would gall. This won't. But the other thing I'm thinking is it's like a sacrificial part that breaks.
Yeah, I'd rather something give.
Yeah, a consumable.
Oh yeah, like a shear shaft or something.
Yeah, but it's like I'm not sure why it would do
But
that.
the part on the Hamilton Standard, the hydromatic,
Yeah.
a big fat hoggy thing in there.
Oh yeah, it's like a 200-pound thing. All right, so this is the same prop. Macaulay, except it is
Threadless.
threadless, but we can just see a different angle here. So there's the tube running through the middle, the oil transfer tube that's going to go up here to the piston. And so oil is going to fill up there, pushing the piston back. When it pushes the piston back, it pushes this back, which is attached to the prop, which is going to make it rotate into a higher or lower blade angle? Higher blade angle. So this is on a single engine. Oh, that's just a great picture there. Oops. That one works. These suck. I didn't realize I had a picture. I'm always trying to describe that. We have this prop as somewhat of an example, but it doesn't do it justice because it looks like it's bolted. This is actually how these props are bolted onto the engine. See those nuts? Okay, there's nuts with a roll pin going through a stud. So these are in effect bolts now. And you have to torque these into the propeller flange, which you think, well, how hard could that be? You have to use a crow's foot, you get in there, but you have to safety this with 041 or 040. I heard there's a service bolt that allows you to do 3.2, but you have to have the wire has to come back. There's almost no room back there at all to get the safety wire around and through. Can you see the little hole right there in that roll pin? That's what you're safetying it to. So we're going to safety this one right here. We'd have to go around, over to here, back around here, through here, put the pigtail there. Yeah.
Would you use any, like, we call it spaghetti, where it's like an outer sheath that keeps it from wearing on that?
Yeah, people don't for some reason, but that would be a good idea, I think.
Well, we had to do something very
I'm familiar with the
similar.
spaghetti.
Well, the couplings, we had to do couplings,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh yeah, you got an 1/8 inch of room to put safety wire through there.
Yeah.
And
It's a pain. So I have a friend, and he's like, Kevin, man, I totally figured out this. You know how those props are such a pain in the butt? I'm like, yeah, I totally figured out. I don't know why everybody's not doing this. I'm like, oh, do tell. And he goes, what you do is you torque it, right? Torque everything. Then you take a Sharpie and you mark where the torque is, because you can't torque it once the safety wire is on. Then you loosen it up, run the safety wire through, and tighten it back up until the Sharpie lines back up. And he was dead serious about that. I'm like,
Is Fred an aircraft mechanic or?
yeah,
you telling me you couldn't put it part way through and then crow's foot it and lock it in
you can't.
position?
Yeah, you can't. But all right, so all right, we looked at that one and that one because I went through. Okay, thing about Macaulay's are, and this is unique to Macaulay. This hub is internally lubricated with red dyed oil, which is independent of engine lubricating system. Why would they dye the oil red?
Identification if it's leaking,
So they know.
So you know if it's leaking from the engine or the prop?
So they know.
Now think NDT. If you see red dye, your hub's coming apart. And that's a big deal.
It's got internal NDT.
Yeah, internal NDT. It's really what it is. Okay, things I didn't write. Uses centrifugal twisting and spring pressure to drive prop to low blade angle. We talked about that. Uses governor oil pressure to drive prop to high blade angle. Talked about that. Blades are installed into the hub and rotate on large ball bearings. Well, you saw the pictures. Internal piston rides in a cylinder. The piston is connected to a blade actuating link. As the piston moves, the blade actuating link rotates. Blade actuating pin installed on the butt end of the blade rides against the actuating link. As the link rotates, it causes the blade to rotate. I think I talked about all of that. In fact, I know I did. All that right there. High and low pitch stops are internal. So you cannot adjust the high and low pitch stops on this one. I think I've got a picture here. Let's see, we talked about that. There we go. Support, piston, spacer link, balance link. No, doesn't show it. Split shim carrier balls. Split race. Let's see. I don't see the. It's in the shims. It's what the shims do. Back to a simple one. So the piston, to set the internal stops, it's something you can't change. It's going to be done inside of this dome right here. And I believe it's how they raise and lower this dome. So when this comes up and hits right there, that's one stop. So if you shim that up a little bit, you're going to change the stop. Then it comes down. I think it has something to do with how it hits down here. So they change the shims on that. Again, not allowed to change them, so I don't know for a fact.
You're
Right.
not allowed to change what?
You're not allowed to open this up.
Oh.
That's major. Yeah. Who can open up a prop?
145.
Yeah. Plus, I've heard that these springs, when decompressed, are rather long. You have to have special equipment to get them in there. Some props are completely sealed with the exception of venting through spiral pins. So threadless. I'll write that because that was kind of a new thing. Some props are completely sealed. Okay, this is. I'm just going to tell you right now. This is something in my mind that it doesn't jive with me real well. I'll write this and I'll tell you what it is. Some props are completely sealed with exception of venting through spiral pins. SPIROLPINS. All right. So in the McCulleys, some of the props have these spiral pin vents. And what I can't find just spelled out really clearly is, the prop either is internally, it's sealed with the red dye oil, and if it leaks, you have a problem, call somebody, don't fly the plane, or it has these spiral pin vents. Because in my mind, you can't seal something up and put red dye in it and say, oh, by the way, we vented it. So it's got to be one or the other, but I can't find the document that I need that says, well, that's just the way that is.
What's a spiral pin then?
A spiral vent, think of a roll pin. A very tiny roll pin beat into. So
But it's spiral? You're talking about the roll pin, like a pivot thing that they would do
pins that
bolts?
kind of look like that. They got that little gap in it, so that when they go in, they get tighter as they go in.
But then you're saying it's just a spiral, like a spiral?
That's what they call them. I don't know. That's their name for it. Just go straight in. So you just see a little roll pin sticking out. Let me see. Spring hub, retaining hub, shim carrier, balls, retainer split. There we go. Vent. Right there.
Oh, I think there's one out there that's
Mhm.
like that.
One is. So it's got a vent right there. Well, if it's got a vent right there, do you think it's filled full of oil?
No.
I do not. My opinion. So you can't have that. That's what I would think. Otherwise, oil would come out of there. Otherwise, how are you going to keep it out of there? So, oh, wait a minute. Okay, C200 series. Okay, we got that. Look down here. That's the C200. C200. C300 non-oil filled. Well, that means that that's oil filled. I don't know. Or it's vented in a spot where there's no oil. I don't know. I'm being honest with you. I don't know how they play that one out. If you have vents, if it's... What I do know is this. You got the sticker, I know you're internally lubricated. It tells you to look out for the red dye. And unless otherwise stated, I assume that McCulley props have the oil in. I'm always looking for the red dye or a leak. So we're going to watch a cool video. Actually, I like it, but later on. So we got that one. What is different about this one?
That's feathering.
That's feathering. Okay, what do we see about feathering? What's going on with this?
The gas cylinder.
Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back one. got this one. Let's try to get the same profile. Yeah, it's kind of the same profile. Short, short.
Very long.
Two things.
Counterweights.
Counterweights and a long piston or cylinder right there. So what does that tell me? It's a feathering prop. So it's going to go on a multi-engine. I usually say twin engine, but it could be three, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Why does it have a longer piston again?
Has to have a long throw. So those blades, I don't know, can you see up right here, this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so look at, they only go 15 degrees, from 13 to 28. Is that 15, did I do my math right?
And the feathering needs more space than the
Oh yeah, see, so right there's flat, and so see the pistons, I got all the way down, the piston's almost touching the cylinder up here, and so, boom. Oops, I did it backwards.
Yeah.
They do it backwards, but anyway, it's just, there's not enough travel.
Mhm.
So you gotta have that travel all the way up here to get these things to go into feather. So look for the long nose. Let me see, shim, counterweight, yep, and the counterweight. Oh, feather stop, so there's your stop right there. Let's see, this is a new slide. I forgot I added some new slides. Macaulay turbine engine props. Yeah, each propeller consists of hub, assembly, prop, blades, piston, cylinder, assembly, blade, start blocks. I don't know why I put all this in there.
Probably so it's pertinent to turbines as well. because it's
Yeah.
Macaulay brand.
When you have multi-engines, do those props usually always have counterweights?
Yeah.
Multi-engine?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think you can do it
That wouldn't make any sense.
without.
Or like a spring or something.
No.
like that.
You don't, because the hydromatic doesn't.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The old timey, old grandpa.
Alan was coming by telling us that I was the C-130s over there at Cal Fire.
Oops. There you go.
When were
They're
you
not
born?
pre-war.
When were you born?
All right, still talking about the Macaulay. No field lubrication. Is possible. You can't lubricate it. Yeah, that sounds like a challenge. Some are filled with red dyed oil. And if you see red dye, you probably have a crack. So dye leak. It's a crack or failed seal. Let's see. Should be removal / installation, but I decided to write removal after I wrote that. So when you take off a constant speed prop, the first tool you need is a bucket. Why do you need a bucket?
All the oil.
There's a lot of oil in these props. It's going to go all the way through the prop, through that tube, up into the piston cylinder area. You have a bunch of oil sitting in the prop flange shaft, and the props are heavy. They are rather heavy. If you're welcome to pick that up, and the blades are only that long, and you can see just how heavy that damn thing is. It weighs a lot, and it's not the wood. I tell you that much right now. So it's really dense wood. What does this thing weigh? 75, 80 pounds? Huh?
I can tell you exactly how heavy it is.
You carried it over, Stephen. How much does that thing weigh? How many times do you have to stop for a break? Yeah. So about 75 pounds. It doesn't even have blades. So it's heavy. So don't try and take it off by yourself. You'll just drop it, and that'll be bad. So you always use 2 people to take them off. And as soon as you pop it off, you're like, oh, there's oil everywhere. We wish we had a Bucket. So you have a bucket, you lay it down on the bucket. It's a 5-gallon bucket, something like that fits real nice in a 5-gallon bucket. They just do, right? And then you get the bucket, and then you have maybe one to catch the oil coming out of the hub of the prop. So the other thing mechanics like to do is take out your rag and shove it in the crankshaft. At one seminar I went to, they were talking about that at the prop shop. They had overhauled a prop, sent it out. Somebody installed it, called them up. Your prop doesn't work. What's wrong with you guys? You don't even know how to do anything right, blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, fly it in. So they flew it into the prop shop. They go to take the prop off. They set it in the 5-gallon bucket and like, oh, well, look at that. There is a rag shoved into the crankshaft. So that's why your prop doesn't work, because it's not getting any oil. So yeah, I said it will. So then they overhauled the prop and put it back on. Yeah. Let's see. So that's the removal installation. Lubricate the O-ring. Lube O-ring. These things are sealed with an O-ring, and the O-ring goes on the back side. No. There's wood in the way. But there's a groove in there. The O-ring goes in there. You want to lubricate the O-ring because it's going to go over the pilot of the crankshaft. Put that on. So lube your O-ring. Lube attach hardware per prop manufacturer. Instructions. Be very specific about that. Look for a sticker. So because you don't normally just take props off, I mean, it's just not something you do. If you're taking them off, it's usually because you've had an engine malfunction, major malfunction of the engine and it's coming out, or you've had a prop malfunction and it's going out. So either which way, if you've had a major engine malfunction and so you're taking the prop off because you're going to send the engine out, well, you ought to send the prop out to get it flushed and resealed because it has contaminants too. Or the prop failed and you're sending it out. Well, either which way, you're sending the prop out. So talk with your prop shop when you can't be shy about it. You got to call them up when you get the prop. And prop shops are great, by the way. Because props are hard to transport. They don't fit well in anything. So they have the prop truck comes through here and picks up props. And so talk to your prop shop. You get it back. Hey, what do I need here? What should I use? Grease? Should I use oil? Should it be dry? What's the torque? Call them. Do all that stuff. Ask them. I just sent a prop off to Reading, and I know that some props require the bolts to be changed out or NDT'd at every installation. So I just ask them. Hey, you want the bolts with this? Is there a service bolt in or anything on that? Should I get the props bolts fixed? And of course he said, well, 99% of the people don't. I'm like, well, that's not what I asked you. It's like, well, you really should have a magnafluxed and recad plated. Well, then I'm sending it to you. I'm the 1%. So, all right. So use proper look for sticker. Yeah. Obviously, you're going to safety wire. Let's see. What's that? Obviously, it is though. It should be obvious by now. Although, yes, working on the plane I'm working on today, 3 of my squawks were failure to safety wire, improper safety wires. Really? 2 things weren't safetied and one was just safety on a thing that went around. So it's like, that won't work. I took a picture of it.
You're not going to show us?
I know, I brought it up. Squirrel. Let's see. Safety wire went around.
Dumb shit.
Yeah. That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you won't lose it.
What's with that like black marring on it. Is
Yeah,
that-
you won't lose it when it falls off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't have to resafety it every time you take it off and on. It's like-
Yeah.
Safety leash, yeah.
all right. Look for sticker. I think that's all. So I used to do so much. My lecture took so much longer, and I realized I'm just making it complicated when it doesn't need to be. So we talk about Macaulay props, right? We just break it down into there's counterweighted and non-counterweighted, and you guys know how that works. If it's counterweighted, then centrifugal twisting force makes it go to high pitch. And if it's non-counterweighted, centrifugal force makes it go low pitch. All right, and then the oil pressure just does the opposite. So keep it simple, right? And there's a spring in there that assists the CTF. Okay, that was simple. Along that lines, okay, we've got counterweighted, non-counterweighted. Now we can say we also have two-bladed, three-bladed. I was going to do that next. Two-bladed, three-bladed. All the same. You just add a blade, right? Different hub. Then we have threaded and non-threaded. Why do you need to know that? Well, to a large part, you don't, unless you're going to buy an airplane. Like when I was buying my airplane, that was one of my big hot buttons. Like, I don't want a threaded prop. I don't want to deal with that the minute I buy it. So, had a customer that had a threaded. I told you guys that story about the guy had the 182 that shook so bad,
Yeah.
and I had to change out the. Well, they finally, took the prop. They sent the prop off, and they're like, we can't fix this. So it was a threaded. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to overhaul your threaded, Macaulay. Get a new one. So,
Just said no.
yeah. So,
We'll sell you a new one then.
yeah, sell you a new one. And they did. So we bought a new one. But of course, thank you, Macaulay. The spinner backing plate didn't match. The new spinner didn't match. So none of the spinner stuff matched. And of course, the guy who ordered it, when he talked to Macaulay, he's like, okay, this is a big deal. Does the prop use the same spinner and bulkhead as the one that's coming off? Absolutely. Are you sure? Oh, I'm totally sure. Then they get the new prop and try to bolt it up, and it won't fit because the bolt holes are just off, just enough to where the two didn't line up. So I had to order a new bulkhead and spinner for the guy, which is as much as the prop. So went from 10,000 like 20 grand for the whole kit. Yeah.
So I've been wondering, why wouldn't you use a feathering prop on a single engine?
Why would you? So what would it gain you?
Well, if you lose an engine, if you lose your only engine,
Lose your only engine, you can glide
a little bit farther.
a little bit farther.
That's about it.
For all that complexity, you're going to need a feathering governor. You got to have feathering stops in the aircraft with a gate. So now you can't have the kind of control I have that's just push-pull. You got to have the quadrant type that has a locking gate so you can go up over the gate because you can't just go into feather accidentally. So, or something to go around. So, yeah, way too much.
This earlier too, it's like if you lose oil pressure to your governor and you have a non-feathering prop, then at least it biases so that you can still fly the prop. But if you lose engine, you don't have a prop. But if you have a feathering prop and you lose pressure to your oil governor, it feathers. If you lose engine, it feathers.
Yeah.
So you lose propeller if you lose governor or if you lose engine. But if you have a non-feathering prop and you lose prop governor,
Yeah.
then at least you stop the prop.
That's a good point. So if I lose oil pressure in my plane, I've got a couple minutes left before the engine seizes up.
Okay.
But if I lost oil pressure in a feathering prop, then it's taking away my option.
Gotcha.
So I'd rather have the option.
Okay.
So. Plus complexity. I think it's probably more to do with complexity and weight.
Okay.
Well, I feel like the only place you see feathering on single engines in turboprops.
Yeah. And I don't know this for a fact, but I sort of feel like the reason why turboprops have feathering props, well, number one, you got to stop it from spinning when you shut down, right? So you have a free turbine in there, and if you shut it down and the prop is windmilling for the next 5 minutes, that's without bearings. So you got to stop it. So we got that. Plus, I think that it's just more simplistic to make one style. It's the same engine prop combination on everything. So
Plus,
Or
don't
close.
they can go into reverse thrust?
they do have beta range, yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're also usually power turbine, so if you spin the power turbine, it won't spin the core if you're trying to windmill too.
Isn't that what I kind of said?
Still bearings. that
Well,
are-
it-
yeah.
Yeah.
not-
Yeah. Say it wouldn't help with the
Varies
restart.
within that power turbine.
So, yes.
Is there a core charge, like when you have to get a new prop?
Yeah. They charge you-
Like an alternator down at
Yeah.
at AutoZone.
Yeah, yeah.
No. No. You send your prop to them, they take it apart, they call you up and go, yeah, well, you got corrosion on this and that, and it's going to be $15,000 for these. You might as well just buy a new prop. Well, you want to buy my old prop? No.
They give it back to you?
No. Hey, if you want it,
You can sell it on
they'll probably charge you extra. Yeah.
Charge you
Yeah,
extra
they'll
to
pay you all
dispose
the
of it.
extra shipping.
Yeah, they charge you extra to ship it back to
Two
you.
trade-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you get so many hours on it, you
For
can
the
just.
lifetime warranty.
Just
let's
lease
see.
your props.
If the only thing bad is one of the blades, yeah, somebody trade in everything else and just buy a new blade.
Yeah, well, it's probably just a blade. They probably do it. Yeah, no core charge. Funny question though. Yeah. Well, it's actually because engines. Yeah, you can buy a new engine. It's a core charge on the engine. So I don't think that there's a core charge on props. There's not much market for used props. Props are one of those things. If you listen to what's his name? I can't remember the guy's name. You know what I'm talking about.
Podcast.
Yes, podcast guy. You know, they always bag on prop shops because it's like every time you send something in, it's like, it's just, it's corrosion. It would have worked fine for the next 20 years, but you sent it in. Now they take it apart and they find a little pit in there from corrosion. Like, we got to reject it for corrosion. Well, it's kind of true. You know, it's once your repair station and your name's going on something, if the directions say, well, no pitting from corrosion, well, you're doing an overhaul, you got to sign it off. Like, well, it's pitted. I can't use it. But as long as it's still stuck in the hub, pitted, you don't know it, so you can keep running it, which is kind of a funny thing. So point being, once you take it apart, half the parts have to be changed out. So that kind of sucks. Well, I guess that's a good place to stop because we can start.